today. We're, in my opinion, extremely lucky to have Dave here. There's probably never been anybody more knowledgeable about basketball in this gym, so we're all part of history today. So that's great. The format for tonight, Dave, like you've seen in the emails, is a world-renowned shooting coach, one of the best to do it. And so what he's going to focus on, which I think is really helpful, is a lot of us have kind of either played some basketball, that kind of stuff in the past, and I know that I've been guilty of this as well. I haven't really thought about how to teach something. I just kind of say, do this, and especially with younger kids, telling them doesn't always help very much. They can't really process it that well. So Dave's going to spend his time basically teaching us how to teach kids how to shoot, which, today is probably the hardest skill to do well at a high level. But the thing that for some reason a lot of young kids have the most confidence that they're the greatest in the world at, which I don't understand. So yeah, Dave's going to spend his time teaching us how to teach shooting. And then, like I said, Waz will go over some stuff about how he goes about planning some practices. And then I'll go about just kind of some game day stuff, managing expectations, anything like that. And any just extra questions that people might have. If we go a bit over and we run out of time, then Waz and I can wait. We're not in a huge rush to interrupt Dave or anything like that. So without anything else, I'll turn it over to you, and you've got the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. I need your help on a couple of things. Number one, I want to make sure that I don't fall into the trap of trying to tell you how to do my job. I want to make sure that I'm giving you some guidance on little ideas that you can use to do your job. Because quite honestly, my job is a lot easier than yours. Like, I have access to a facility 24/7, as much gym time as you want. I've got multiple people rebounding and passing, and with a mature athlete who is very self-aware typically, and like all these luxuries. And you guys have 1 hour of gym time once a week to teach everything to players of multiple different skill levels. And so when you feel like I'm going into teaching you how to be an NBA shooting coach, just ask a question to get me back on track and telling me what I would do to teach and work with the players that you're working with. What I want to try and avoid, here, the first question I want to ask you guys is, how active would you like to be tonight? Like, I'm open to doing it like this, where I kind of lecture and do a quick little demonstration. I find it's more fun if we can be a little bit more involved, but then you guys might tell me, listen, I just came from work. I got jeans and I got my nice sneakers on, and I don't really want to crease the toe or any, like, you guys tell me. And obviously age appropriate activity levels. Like, would you like to be reasonably active, or would you rather, rather not? And like, if you don't want to be, just stay in the chair or just come and hang out on the baseline. I'm not going to be turning to anybody and questioning, well, how come you're not participating with the rest of the group? Okay, so we'll get slightly active. In that spirit, let's move away from the chairs and let's kind of go around a rim. I want you to feel comfortable interrupting me today, asking questions, guiding this wherever you want it to go. I've got an idea of the things that I think I can help you with. But again, you tell me how you do, what your job looks like, and the questions that you have. So interrupt, ask a question. Don't be afraid of like guiding the conversation somewhere else. Okay. How much time do you guys get for practice? Is that like hour and a half once a week? Hour? Half court. Good Lord. God bless you, all of you. Good for you. Okay. And we're like, raise your hand if you're sort of U10, U12 or younger. Okay, and then 14 to 16, and then older than okay. So most of us in the younger age group. All right, perfect. My advice is don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't fight a battle you can't win. So with the, we're going to spend a little time talking about the U10, U12 age groups. Resist the temptation to try and teach the upper body. Resist the temptation to try and really get into the details of the shooting motion, like this part of the shooting motion. They're probably not strong enough to be able to do it. They probably don't have the maturity to understand why just yet. And I think you're going to spend, if you spend a bunch of time on that, I think you're going to waste that time, and it's not going to be your fault. It's not going to be the player's fault either. They just don't have the skills to be able to work on that. They don't have the physical strength to do it yet. So what I would encourage you to do is focus on trying to teach them to be on better balance in as many shots that they take. And we'll go through, I'll show you some moderately creative and moderately fun drills that we can do. And the goal in these drills is to avoid explicitly teaching the players what they need to do to be balanced, but just to put them in a situation where they have to explore being balanced. So if I were to go in a vacuum and say, what habits do I want the players to be able to discover here? I want them to be able to discover feet outside your hips, toes reasonably at the target, even leg push, feet back down in roughly the same spot. We want to try and just create simple, repeatable motions. The feet are going to help us both stop negative energy and then create positive energy as we're shooting the basketball. So let me explain what those two things mean. If I turn my attention to the rim, there's an imaginary line that we have on every shot that we take that connects the middle of our body through the middle of the rim, and I call that the target line. We want to, as much as we possibly can, with as many different body parts, create energy that flows along the target line or straight up in the air from that target line. That's positive energy. That's energy that gets the ball going the direction we want it to go. Negative energy is energy that flows any other direction except for at the target, straight up in the air. We want to reduce that, ideally eliminate it, but more realistically reduce that. When you're moving on the floor, you're creating negative energy. You're very rarely cutting right at the rim. So the first goal, get stable, stop the negative energy that we created by moving on the floor, trying to get open, and then try to create positive energy as we're shooting the basketball. So what I would encourage players to do in your first week or two of practice, especially with this younger age group, just have them explore jumping dynamically in a bunch of different directions. So start with just jump as far as you can forward and try to control your balance when your feet hit the floor. I'd recommend putting a constraint on that drill where you say both feet hit the floor at the same time, not because that's the correct thing to do in a game or the only correct thing to do in a game, but it's just going to force players to explore around a wider base in order to get their balance. If you give them the opportunity to 1-2 step, they now have 2 steps to get their balance, and they can probably move dynamically and be balanced in this position, but that position isn't going to help them as much in a game. We want to force them to explore around this. So adjust the constraints on the drill to try and get them to do that. So I would start by just like 5 shots of jump as far as you can straight forward. I'd then start to encourage 5 shots jumping as far as you can to the side, again with the same constraint of both feet have to hit the floor at the same time, not because it's correct, just because it's harder, and then get them into shots. So jumping to the side, shot, grab your rebound, and find a different spot. One of the things I really would encourage you to avoid, especially given that you only have one rim to shoot on, avoid lines at all costs. Get them different spots on the floor, The ultimate skill that we're trying to teach is adaptability. It's not a perfect form, it's an adaptable form. There's going to be variety. We want to teach them to shoot in a way that gives them a bunch of adaptability. If you have narrow feet, you're not adaptable in one direction. You can't go narrower. You're already sort of at the limit. You could go wider. If we get wide, then we have adaptability to be narrower and get a little bit more power if we need. We have adaptability to go a little bit too wide if we're really dynamic and we need to get our balance back. And then on the flip side, if we go outrageously wide, we don't have adaptability to be wider. We want to be our ideal shooting form is the most adaptable shooting form. Does that sort of make sense? Questions on that so far? Positive, negative power would be the first thing I want you to get out of that. And then get them moving anytime it's a balanced, or anytime you're moving in a drill, it has a chance to be a balanced drill. Explore easy situations first, only for a short period of time. Start to make it a little bit more challenging. And then we're really going to step on the gas on the level of difficulty. And I would say even 10 or 11-year-old players are going to be able to handle fairly significant difficulty very, very quickly in this. So that will be the challenge point. That's the level that we should be practicing at. If you want, actually, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna get you on the next thing, get you a little bit more active. After spending a couple of minutes of moving sideways, moving forward, maybe exploring a little bit of backwards, but not necessarily a ton of backwards yet, I want you to really start to challenge the players. And I do this a ton with just about every level of player that I work with. I want you to start to create problems. And the first problem that I create is by physically pushing players. So I'll have the kids partner up. We'll be very mindful of like the distance that we're shooting from so that we're within their range. I'll encourage the kids that like the shooter has the ball in their hands. Pusher has hand on hip, hand on shoulder. The pusher counts down 3, 2, 1, and then pushes as the shooter is jumping away. So the shooter is trying to create separation away from the imaginary defender, but then the pusher is not allowing them to be safe. Kids want to be active, but they only want to be a certain level of active. So they don't want to stand there and do the same thing over and over again. But when we say to them, hey, jump as far as you can, their definition of jumping as far as they can is that. It's like, now they don't really have the challenge, and we're searching for the challenge. So don't allow them to kind of cheat the drill in order to make it easier without realizing it. Push them. And on the first rep, you may have a couple of kids that kind of stumble and have trouble getting their balance, but I would bet by the fourth rep, we're pushing, a 12-year-old is pushing as hard as they can, and the 12-year-old can maintain their balance at the end of it. Coach, can I borrow you for a second? Keep the basketball. So, find the shooting range that's comfortable for you. Start in an athletic stance, hand on hip, hand on shoulder. You're going to jump as far away from me as you possibly can. I'm going to start with like a 25% push to begin with. 3, 2, 1. And then we got to land there, and you can see even that little bit, the first time you do it, ooh, that's a bit of a struggle to get our balance. Perfect. We're in the challenge point where it's a challenge I can meet, but it's hard to meet it. And I'm aware when I'm making a mistake. Obviously, we're practicing both directions, and obviously they're going to get a shot on that. If the player doesn't fall over, we're encouraging players to push harder the next time. So 50% push. 3, 2, 1. Good, no problem. And we can ramp up 75% push, and most of your kids, within 5, they can probably push as hard as they can. They'll be smiling, they'll be having fun, and if we can give them this constraint of land on both feet in control of your body, then they will probably be exploring around the solution that we want without having to explicitly tell them to do it. Okay, and that's our goal. Then If they are, reinforce that message to say, okay, how are you solving this problem? What habits are helping you get on balance? And kind of go back and let them tell you how to handle that. If you guys want, I'll give you a couple of minutes. You can partner up and just kind of explore, like, how much can we push? What does it feel like to try and land on 2 feet at the same time? How hard is it to actually push away as far as I can while I'm getting shoved, so we have an idea of what this feels like for the players. And if you don't want to participate, that's also fine. All right, you got 2 minutes and we can kind of spread out. One of the things I'll do is I'll encourage kids, try to land with your feet close together and see what it feels like. Good. Okay, everybody just stop for 1 second. Can you all imagine what it's going to feel like if you tried to land with your feet right together? I don't necessarily want to put us in a position where we're pushed and being expected to explore what that actually feels like, but we probably know that's what's going to happen. We're going to be off balance, have to get our balance back. Kids may not know that, so don't be afraid to say to them, let's go back to a 25% push now, and just, even though we know it's a mistake, let's try to have our feet close together. Like, land with your feet touching, and then you guys tell me what that feels like. Then on the flip side, I'll turn around and say to them, explore this, because there's good things about this, but there's a downside to this as well. You guys teach me what this feels like. Like, what is the good thing about it? It's probably going to be stable. What's the bad thing about this? Is probably not very powerful. And guide them towards, okay, if those are the two extremes, where do we think the sweet spot in the middle is? And again, they're teaching you, they feel like the stars. You're not having to explicitly tell them you must be hip width apart. You must, yeah, it's a guideline, but it's not absolutely true. Okay, so if you're comfortable, kind of explore a little bit closer together, explore way further apart. It's just so you get a sense of what that feels like as well. Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'll just get everybody stopped for a second here. So I have 7 different layers that I adjust in drills to adjust the difficulty of the drill. I'll play with distance, speed, movement, catches, dribbles, defenders, and decisions. Okay, I'll go through those again and then several times throughout the hour here. Distance, speed, movement, catches, dribbles, defenders, and decisions. If you want to make something harder, do it further away from the rim. If you want to make it easier, do it closer to the rim. You want to make it harder, speed up. Want to make it easier, slow down. Harder, move more. Easier, move less or do it stationary. Add dribbles, add catches to make it harder, take them away to make it a little bit easier. Right now we're doing this without a catch, without a dribble, just so we can give our attention to, are we on balance? Okay. You can add dribbles or catches into this. I want you guys to explore now, and I'll literally give this kind of instruction to the players. I want you to explore how to add a dribble to this drill. It's got to be legal. So it's got to be a basketball movement, and we want to try and make it as game representative as we possibly can. And I'll show you what I mean by that as we kind of move through. But if you have a basketball, figure out how to do push drill where we incorporate a dribble within it. Go ahead. Okay, everybody stop for just a second. I have to point this out to you guys because this is exactly why we're doing it. I'm looking around the gym as you're doing this, and we're adults, and we're all smiling doing a form shooting drill. Some of us with very goofy grins on our faces like we're children, which is exactly what I want. Form shooting can, and whenever possible, should be fun. Form shooting doesn't need to be and probably shouldn't be this. Shooting in a game involves movement. So our form shooting should involve movement as well. And when we give a challenge, it becomes enjoyable. And so whenever possible, look for the physical challenge. There will be times, and we'll get to this with the older players, where the physical challenge might be a small little detail and reworking sort of a motor pattern around a small detail. And maybe that's not like the same kind of enjoyment that would make a smile, but hopefully it's like the same kind of enjoyment that you get by figuring out a complex song on the piano or solving a difficult math problem. So now, if you can, either make a group of 3 or 4 with one basketball, and I want you to figure out how to do push drill with a catch instead of a dribble. Take away the dribble, and then add variety by making a catch. What are your eyes? What are your ideas?
Well, I mean, basically, person, one person passing, another one pushing, another one catching.
Perfect.
Do you want me to join, say you've got 3?
Awesome. Appreciate that. Perfect. They've got a great idea already. Okay, just hold the basketballs for a second here. What do we do if we're watching a kid do this and we notice that they're not exploring around the solution that we want them to explore around? In other words, we're watching them do this and they're landing with their feet close together. Sometimes they're on balance with their feet close together. Sometimes they are off balance. What do we do? Adjust the level of difficulty of the drill that will force them towards having to explore, adjust the constraints in any way that we need to, or bring their attention to it with a probing guided question. Like, What did you feel on that one? Could you feel being on balance? No, I was off balance. Good. What direction were you off balance? Oh, I was losing my balance to the right. Oh, really? In the same direction that you're being pushed. How are you going to solve that on the next shot? I'm going to try and get my feet wider apart. Good idea. Let's try that. And like, we know what we want them to discover, but instead of us trying to be the star of the show and tell them what to do, ask the questions that get them to discover that for themselves. Okay. I want you now, we can go back to partners on this. I think we might figure out some good solutions on this one, but if I need to jump in and guide you a little bit more, I will. I want you now, instead of pushing, to explore leaning. Get the player off balance by having them lean. And the guidance I'll give is like, think about pulling the chair out from underneath them. Okay, so I'll just start with that vague instruction. Instead of pushing, explore leaning to get the person off balance, and we're fighting for our balance. Yeah. Not the one that I typically do, but keep going. See if you can figure out a way, because Brady, can I borrow you? Can I borrow you? Can we grab a basketball? Oh, here, we got one here. Oh, you're getting ready. You don't want to land on your mobile device. Free throw line?
Yep.
Okay, everybody just hold the balls for a second. Feet right together. Keep your body straight. Lean into me. I'll hold you up. Okay, no, don't move your feet. I'll hold you up. Okay? If I were to jump away, are you going to fall on your face, or could you take one step to get your balance here?
One step, yeah.
Okay, so I want you to hop forward to get your balance on 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. My goal on this is to make the shooter make a sound. I want to hear them go, ugh. Like, I want to hear them have to fight for their balance. Okay, we don't want to go to the point where, or we don't want it to be easy where it's not difficult. We want it to be a challenge to get the balance. So Brady didn't die on that rep, didn't even come close. You good here?
Yeah, jump all the way forward.
Yep, 3, 2, 1. Okay, still too easy. We can go a little bit further. Okay, so we can start by exploring that direction. We can steal what these guys had figured out over here. Behind, lean back into me, I got you. Okay, probably can't lean as far on this one, but now they've got to jump backwards to get the balance. You okay? 3, 2, 1. Good. Or we can go feet right together. Lean sideways into me. You good? Okay, jumping towards me. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and it's going to guide them towards, that would probably be a little bit narrow, but he was able to get the balance. So I'll look at that as a coach and go, okay, I can make him lean a little bit more, and he'll probably find that as a solution, and I won't have to teach him to do it. Okay? Explore a little bit. I like it. No, it's good. And what's great about me not giving like full direction, I've never thought to do it that way, where now you have an additional challenge if you're actually shooting of like, you got to get your balance and you have to organize your hands on the ball. And I've been doing this drill for 8 years, and I've never thought to do it that way. No, keep going with your way. Nobody's been injured yet. We all have both our Achilles intact. Okay. So we could Add a dribble to that where you're leaning with a live dribble, 3, 2, 1, and you got to get your balance. We could do that where somebody is waiting to make the pass. We could, and we probably should, by your second or third week of practicing this, we should be changing the angle as much. So instead of everything being with the shooter facing the rim, I'll just say to the players, okay, shooter, declare a direction. Face any other direction, but you're not allowed to face the rim. And have it be a different direction each time. So the shooter declares, okay, I'm going to face this direction. The pusher can then declare where they want to be. Maybe they stand in front of me and they push me backwards, and I got to figure out how to get to there. Maybe they stand behind me and they push me forward, or they stand over here and push me that way. Now we've got infinite amount, well, not infinite, but quite a few possibilities. We've got variability that will teach adaptability. And then we can adjust the level of the difficulty of the drill by adding distance, speed, movement, catches, dribbles, defenders, and decisions. Harder to add decisions to this one, but I'm sure we can figure out what that means. Questions on this part here?
When you're doing this with, like, the young kids,
yeah,
how long or how many weeks or how many reps would you do just this before you say, all right, now we're going to add a shot to it?
You go, oh, they'd be doing it with a shot from the beginning. Okay. So it would be push into a shot. Okay, grab your rebound, come back, push into a shot. Always try and encourage the kids, find a new spot on the floor for your next shot. Don't go back to the same spot. Again, we've got variability that teaches adaptability. It's low-level variability, but low level is significantly better than no variability, which is not going to teach any adaptability. Okay. So yeah, everything with a shot as much as you possibly can. We need to tie the action of getting our balance into shooting, the act of shooting a balanced shot. And the only way to tie those together is to practice that way. So great question. Anybody else at this point? Okay, let's move on to some of the, I'll put a bow on this by saying I do this stuff all the time. I'll do more of this than I will situational shooting. Like if you think about it, moving sideways is I'm drifting to the corner. I've got baseline drift, just getting to the corner for a shot. It is I'm the big, I'm coming up, I'm setting the screen, and then I'm popping out. It is I'm on the wing, there's dribble penetration, and I've got to match or continue to space the floor based on where they're dribble penetrating. I'm on the wing and there's a bad pass made, and I've got, we move sideways so often. We move backward. We should be learning to the habit of teaching, the habit of getting balanced more than the situation, especially at the young age. This is going to apply into every situation. Okay, when you can tie it to a situation, even better. But focus on the habit more than the specific spot on the floor that it happens on. I'd rather you spread out, everybody find a spot, rather than having a lineup of 8 kids waiting for their one turn. Okay. Upper body mechanics. I wouldn't start to worry about this until around 14, and I'm tempted to even say a little bit older. Especially if you're only getting 1 week, 1 hour, or even 2 hours of practice a week, I wouldn't spend a bunch of time. I'd focus more on just getting them a bunch of shots as opposed to trying to teach specific shooting mechanics, which might surprise you coming from a shooting coach. If you have the time, or if you've got the opportunity to work one-on-one with an athlete that really needs to improve their upper body mechanics, I'll show you some of the things that I'll be working on. Biggest thing is the act of the upper body mechanics is pretty similar to billiards or golf. In golf, we have a contact point between a flat surface and a sphere or spherical kind of object, and where that club face contacts the ball determines the direction of the ball. And the angle of the club face will determine the spin, which determines the direction of the ball. This is the club face. This is the basketball. The ball goes in the opposite direction of where we apply force. Kids, young kids, almost all of them at a young age in particular, apply force with their shooting hand on one side of the basketball, which will push the ball offline in that direction, and try and compensate with their guide hand pushing in the opposite direction, trying to get those two things to cancel each other out perfectly so the ball goes straight. We can do it. It's just harder to have two negative variables canceling each other out instead of just creating one. But you have to be physically strong enough to do it with one hand. So again, don't try and do this with the U10s. They're not strong enough no matter how much time you spend on it. You're going to be wasting that time. Okay? With the older group, I might simplify the drill enough that we can explore a set point above the eyes with the middle of our hand underneath the center of the ball parallel to the target line. For 95% of players, the index finger is going to be the middle of their hand, not the middle finger. I've had no players that I've ever worked with where their middle finger is the middle of their grip if their thumb is spread out wide. We want the thumb spread out wide, comfortably wide, because that will make your hand bigger. That will give you more control over the basketball. When you do spread your thumb out wide, for 90% of players, the distance from your index finger to your thumb will be almost exactly the same as index finger to your pinky. For most people, and you guys can kind of do that now, where match up your index fingers and your thumbs, and then just move one over and measure, is the distance from your index finger to your pinky approximately the same. Start there, confirm that it's that. I'll be surprised if you don't find that you're within a centimeter. Okay? This is not an absolute. There will be people with super flexible spider fingers that can get their fingers far more spread out than their thumb, or long thumb, or short fingers, or inflexible thumb. Like, there are things, and when there's little variations to this, the most I see is a split finger grip, but we just want to make sure we know what is the middle of their grip. If we're going to go into this kind of detail, we want to know what the middle of their grip is, and then get whatever is the middle of their grip underneath the middle of the ball at the beginning of the shooting motion. Let's talk about that part for a second. This is the beginning of the shooting motion. This is the beginning of the lifting motion. They will flow one into the other, but you're not actually shooting the basketball until your hand is in position to push the ball the direction you want it to go. Where do I want the ball to go? I want the ball to go up and forward. I'm not actually shooting the ball until my hand gets on the bottom towards the back to push it up and forward. I'm not shooting the ball yet because my hand is in a position to push this way. Okay? We will use this power, but this is where the shot begins. This is where your finger has to be in the right position. Parallel to the target line. I want this finger parallel to the imaginary line between the player and the hoop. When you can do this, the middle of your hand stays on the middle of the basketball, and when we push the middle of the ball, or both sides of the ball evenly towards the target, the ball goes straight. If you change the angle of your fingers, then as you snap your wrist, your hand comes off the middle of the basketball and pushes it in the opposite direction. Or if you change the angle of your fingers on this way, you end up over on the other side of the basketball, pushing in the opposite direction. We need the angle of the fingers to be correct. This is what everybody should be talking about when they say get your elbow in. Okay? Your hand is touching the ball. Your elbow is not touching the ball. I'm not saying get your elbow in isn't a good cue, but it's not getting to the heart of the matter, because I can be in the right position the way my body's built with my elbow slightly out. Reggie Miller was even more out than this. I can also have my elbow in underneath the ball, but now my finger is not along the target line. So if you see a player like this where their fingers across the target line, it's not wrong to say get your elbow in if that cue makes sense to them, but we should know how in do we want it to be. We want it to be in until that finger's along the target line. So with a more advanced player, with more on the line, I will break this down by saying, rehearse the beginning of the shooting motion by starting at the set point, index finger on the bottom of the ball, parallel to the target line, guide hand beside the ball but not touching, at my lowest point, and then just lift and snap from there. I hate it when that happens. That drives me insane. So what happened? Ball went left. Why did the ball go left? Because I haven't shot a shot in 2 months, partly, but more if we go back to the physics, my hand must have drifted off to the right. My guide hand wasn't touching the basketball, so I know it wasn't my guide hand. My body was hopefully just trying to make a simple lifting motion, so I know I wasn't creating energy to the left with that. What was left? My shooting hand was touching the basketball. It happened very quickly. I must have pushed the right side of the ball more than the left. And so we can use the feedback from the rim to tell us what would have happened within the shooting motion. Okay? I want you guys now to explore around this position. 1, 2, 3, lift and snap. Making a simple move up and forward, keeping your body as simple as you can. I want you to hold the set point for 3 seconds. During those 3 seconds, I want you to check your finger to see it's in the right position. Have your partner be the shooting coach. Shooting coach stand behind, look over their shoulder, and just help them feel. You may see them in that position. They think their index finger's on the bottom of the ball and along the target line, and you just adjust it to say, no, that's parallel to the target line. That's the position you hold, and we learn to make a simple motion from there. Don't go further out than about 2 steps off the charge circle. We don't generate much power in this drill. Don't try and do it far away. Questions on that? All right, let's give it a shot. That's why I airballed mine, is so that you guys feel comfortable. I'm very altruistic in that way.
I've got 5 to 7 year olds today.
Okay.
They like a lot of them haven't played in their games before.
Yeah.
Clinics, and so like some of them won't be able to meet effectively.
Right.
How do you start? You don't want them to buy.
No, I wouldn't encourage that. At 5 to 7, I would buy, if you're able to, a low rim and the smallest basketball you can find. And your only goal at 5 to 7 years old is to make sure that when they're 9 years old, they still want to play basketball.
Yeah.
Your only goal is to make it fun.
Yeah.
And right now, the more reps they can get, of no matter how they do it, and the more fun that they're having, the better off it's going to be for them. Once you get to 9, then maybe I'll start to do some balance stuff. And then getting more and more specific the older they get, as long as they want that feedback. But
because they'll be playing on this high. Like it could be
at 5,
they're under 8, and so there's kids that are as young as 5. I mean, they're 6. You know, most of the team is 6 or 7. But like,
if they love it, buy them a hoop you can lower to 7 feet and raise up as they get older. So I'll do things like, if I have the ability to raise and lower the rim a little bit, even with elite players, I'll create that variability and in small margins. So them shooting a few shots on a 10-foot rim, and let's be honest, if they're practicing once a week, it's going to be just a few shots. But if you have a hoop in the driveway, then or on the car park, then they're going to get a lot of shots on that one. And so that makes sense. Okay. Okay, everybody, hold the basketballs for just 1 second. Big reminder for the players on this one, do this out of a game body posture. So try to avoid eliminating the legs or starting with straight legs and then going down, then up. we want to start in an athletic body posture, because ultimately most shots are going to be the ball starts moving up, but the body stays down. And it's when the ball gets to around the set point that everything starts to fire together. So we want to be in the habit of still having the legs engaged so that we can lift the elbow and lift our legs at the same time. But then what was the other part that, we don't want to rehearse the habit of I start here and then I go down, because ultimately now we're practicing lift, down, and up. We want it just an efficient motion where the ball only goes up. So see if you can, what's that? What are your thoughts? What's the advantage of the dip? The lower you start the ball, the more room you have to generate power. What's the disadvantage of the dip? Yeah, it takes longer to do it. So if you're shooting from here, should we dip the basketball? Well, what's our biggest priority? Probably power. So and especially if you're a smaller player, you absolutely need to get the ball low enough to generate enough power for the shot. If you're Duncan Robinson and you're 6'9" and you're an elite shooter and there's 0.2 on the shot clock and somebody's closing out on you and you catch it here, it's a nice weapon to be able to catch it, bring it right to the set point, and lift up from there. I would love people to be adaptable to both scenarios, but we need to be strong enough to be able to do the second. And most normal sized human beings, especially from distance, are not strong enough to do it. So most of these, it's a great question. And I want you to ask about all the little debates that we have, because they're important. They're debated for a reason. But the answer for almost all of them is, it depends. How strong are you? How much time do you have? It's case by case basis, not only for the player, but for each individual shot. And having more weapons is better, but being realistic about the situation is imperative. That makes sense? So isolation drill, isolating the set point here, holding this position, learning to make a simple move out of that position would be where I would start to refine that, the shooting motion. Then I would move into ABC, where we start at triple threat position. Leave the body set up as we lift to this set point, take our guide hand off. The whole point of doing this drill is to start at the beginning of the lifting motion, find the set point, and make sure that our index finger is in the right position when we get here, and learn and rehearse shooting the ball with one hand from there. So stop at the set point, check the index finger, either the player or the coach or both, make a simple move out of that, and then we can speed up, or maybe we start with A, B, C. Maybe it's A, B, C. But as time goes on, can we do that a little bit faster? Okay, explore ABC right now, where you stop at your set point, actively remove your guide hand, reinforce shooting the ball with one hand, and keeping your body engaged until you get to that set point there. Make sense? Okay. Whose ball did I steal? Was that yours?
What you could do to also encourage players not to use their guide hand as well. Like you've said, take the guide hand off.
Yeah, ultimately that's a constraint that
There are other things it can do to stop them from.
I found
put coins in their fingers and all sorts of stuff.
As soon as we have the coin idea, as soon as we have a device that we're using to teach, we're reliant on the device. Yeah. And so I'm trying to just remove this to force this hand to figure out where it needs to be, because ultimately this hand is pushing, is either forcing or allowing this hand to slip out of position. If this hand is pushing, then this hand needs to be pushing that way. Yeah. And then, so for me to be able to get this one out of the way, I first have to teach this one where to be.
Just one of the steps is being disengaged the hand.
Yeah. Which then, with enough reps, we should then be without having to explicitly teach them, they should be figuring out where that shooting hand needs to be to get the ball to go straight by itself. A coin, not a bad idea, but it's just like, yeah, as soon as you take away the coin, the player get like, oh, okay, so I do this, and they go back to their old habit, and now you just got to start over again anyways. You do this really well.
Okay.
You're teaching like younger kids, because I've gone away from, when I was young, it was always like like that, and now I tell coaches, don't ever have them put their hand behind.
I used to do it all the time. I never do it that.
Take off. But what I always find with the younger kids, and this is when I'm kind of like, should I be doing this or not? Because they get this and they do like that.
Yeah.
Versus,
and that's kind of, I 100% agree with you. And that's kind of why I said, like, don't do it until they're physically strong enough, because they're going to find all these compensating ways.
Well, that's what I've kind of done. Like, if I'm teaching a kid,
or do it in small
and
doses.
I see him do that, I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Or try to coach them out of it. Like, it may just be like they don't realize they're doing it. Okay, try to square up those shoulders. But if they're 12 and they can't not do it, then they're not ready for that level.
That's what I've always done.
What's that? I find that, like, I'm going to do this at the clinic tomorrow, and there's going to be 11 and 12-year-olds there, but it's setting the stage for,
It's not really.
So, okay, everybody come back to the middle, or here, let's meet down here just so we're somewhere near the camera. Kids, especially the younger group, I don't mind if you do this a little bit in small doses with like 11 and 12-year-olds. I wouldn't spend more than 10 shots doing this. Like, the expression I use is plant a seed. Like, we don't actually expect it to grow yet, but there's not a lot of harm in planting the seed, watering it a little bit, and then it hopefully it's growing a few years from now. When we're doing this with the younger age group, you'll probably find they want to explore around a set point down here. They're lowering the ball so that they have more room to generate power. And it's a natural thing when power is the objective. Power is important for the 11 and 12-year-old, but accuracy is going to be more important down the road. So if we're doing this drill, I want to reinforce this position and not that position, because in a low set point, players are forced into a choice between two bad options. When the ball is down chin level or below, it's very hard to get your hand underneath the ball. And if your hand's on the back of the basketball, you're going to be pushing the ball forward. So now we got flat shots. Or you realize I want to try and get underneath this and lift up, and players start to twist their body. And now we've got asymmetry in the body. We got our left side pushing in a different way than we got our right side pushing, and we're probably going to get a lot of negative energy. So we're solving one problem by creating another. If you're seeing a lot of that, I would really limit the amount that you're doing these kind of drills. Let them get physically stronger before you start to go into this kind of detail. If you are going to do it, keep them close to the rim and reinforce this position, lifting that direction. That sort of makes sense? From ABC, or here, let me backtrack for a second. Isolation drill, the first one is learning what the set point is, how to make a simple motion. ABC is learning how to find that set point and then make a simple motion out of it. Slow to quick is now learning how to find that set point without stopping in it. So slow to quick means the ball starts the lifting motion slowly, so you have time to be aware of where that index finger is and can it get to the right set point. Then the moment it gets to where it needs to be, we release the guide hand and accelerate without stopping the basketball. Okay? Body stays engaged until the ball gets to the set point, and then everything lifts together, but slow down, and 4 seconds to get from A to B. Take the guide hand off and accelerate out from there. That makes sense? You want to explore? All right.
Just emphasize that with like the under 11s and 12s, you
Okay.
do this when
Okay.
they're within range so that they're not, so that they can achieve it. So you wouldn't be emphasizing it on a free throw.
No. Even my NBA
Let them do
players,
their-
like the distance that I shot from, like probably around the yellow line, would be the distance that I would be doing this from, even at like my size in the beginning. So they may even need to be a half. So they're going to hate it. So at that age, 10 reps. And then, okay, we're moving on. If you even do it at all. And I would encourage you to spend more time on the balance stuff. Okay. What's that?
I'm pushing out like that. What my daughters have it.
Yeah.
This is the problem when you're teaching kids shooting and you're a terrible shooter yourself. You're trying to demonstrate.
Or when you don't shoot anymore. Like I've shot about 12 shots in my trip to Australia so far. I thought on the first clinic, what's that?
What's your percentage left?
Oh, it's probably only about 70%. So not as high as it should be from that distance doing a simple drill. Okay, let me borrow everybody back down here for a second. My first book, which I would encourage you not to buy, is coming out probably in the next month or two. The reason I say don't buy it is very math heavy. We're measuring how people shoot the basketball. It is not designed for people like yourself. It's going to get way too granular for you. The only reason I bring it up is my second book. When I write it, I will absolutely have a chapter called Stop Doing Stationary Form Shooting. Okay? And I just want to finish you with this idea. Those are form shooting drills. And we will need to spend a little bit of time getting good at the habits within those drills. But the moment that a player shows any proficiency in the drill, like they shoot a couple of halfway decent ones, I want you to attach movement to the situation and almost start with the same progression of hop forward, A, B, C. Hop sideways, A, B, C. Tie the form shooting habits to game situation. Push drill with ABC or slow to quick. Leaning drills, ABC, slow to quick. Push drill with a catch into ABC. That's what form shooting should look like. Don't do a bunch of form shooting in a vacuum. Attach it to the things that happen in a game. Still high accountability to the habits that we're building, trying to get our hand in the right position, trying to get our guide hand off the ball, trying to get our elbow in, getting our set point. We're still focusing a lot of attention on trying to do those things as optimally as we can, but in more challenging environments than just standing here over and over and over again. At the very, very least, even when you're doing the stationary one, add as much variability as you can. Easiest way to add variability, okay, shot one from here, shoot the next one over there. Shoot the next one over here. Move to a different spot on the floor. That's the absolute minimum variability that we should add, but it's better when you can say, hey, hop to your right, hop to your left, hop backwards, hop and turn. Okay, now you're not losing your balance. I can challenge your balance more. I'm pushing you, but we're still keeping the ABC part of it because we're not good at this part. Challenge where you can, simplify where you need to. That sort of makes sense? Any questions? This is the kind of stuff that I would be spending 10 minutes of your 1 hour practice on every single week.
In terms of thinking where you would stuff that into your practice plan, and I don't mean stuff as in poorly, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily start with this.
Okay.
Because so what I'm thinking is that you might run them around and get them playing, and then once they've done some real work, you put them under this when they're a little bit fatigued, not like.
Yeah.
Is that the way you would think about it in our kind of format?
I would throw it all kinds of different places in your practice. And I would probably challenge myself. I know I would do a poor job of this, but I would challenge myself to do like 2 minutes of it in the first 15 minutes of practice. Come back and find 2 more minutes to do it in the next 15 minutes of practice. See how that goes. Next practice, try and do like 5 minutes like after a dynamic warm-up. See how that goes. Okay, let's try 10 minutes at the end of the next practice. I don't know what the answer would be, and I don't know for each group, and I would guess it would be different for each person in each group, including the coach. So play with it. And I think like just avoiding the routine. Routines get boring. Players hate boring. So mix it up as much as you can and then just see what works best for your group. That would be my advice. Anybody else? That give you some idea of like, I guess my last thing would be after doing this, like as we start to get into like the second month or so and you've done quite a bit of this, start to attach it now to a game situation. So, okay, when are we moving sideways? Okay, we're baseline drift. We're not ready for the 3-point line. We're going to go baseline drift, but 2 steps inside the 3-point line. Let's get a pusher there. We're pushing that way. Okay, we're going to come set the screen. We're going to pop out. We'll shrink down that distance as well. Set the screen, and as you're rolling, I want somebody to push the roller here. So we're starting to get the same thing, but it's within a game context a little bit more. And play with it and adjust as you go. So I want to thank you for giving up your evening. Coach Dave Love on Instagram and Twitter. I've got a bunch of free resources on coachdavelove.com. If you go there and sign up for my newsletter, I think I've got about 11 emails programmed to go out to you that each one teaches something, and then just boatloads of free information coming your way. So look for that. Yeah, I appreciate your attention and your willingness to learn, and I wish you the best of luck this season. All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Well, thanks again. Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
All right, sounds great. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you.